we have one new box. This is the Crestron CX100, the new UC engine for Microsoft Teams, being able to deliver you native Microsoft Teams room experience, plus bring your own device. So let's get this unboxed. As you can see, all nicely packed, safe and secure. So now let's go through each item that we include in the box ready for your setup. So first of all, we have the quick start guide, and you can scan that QR code so you can see the setup guide very easily. Next we have some Cat5, Cat6 cables. That's for connectivity for the touch panel and the UCPR. We have DisplayPort to HDMI for our displays, and then we have another HDMI to HDMI, so that can be for your content, for example, on your tabletop. Two network cables, standard Cat5e cables. Some power supplies, so we can power up everything. And another Cat5 cable. Then first up, we have this box, which will most likely look like our touch panel. So this is our 10-inch tabletop touch panel. Now, coming very soon is the option for a wall mount touch panel as well. So you'll be able to order that as an option. This new device, this is the UCPR. So this is the device that will sit under the table and give you that connectivity. And then finally, we have the UC engine at the bottom. So this is the wall plate compute that will be mounted to the, usually behind the screen or in a rack out of the way. So once we remove the UC engine plate, just over here we have the power supply for HDCon 260. That's on the device, so I'll show you that in a second. But also in here there's a little package as well with some instructions, but also they are the EDID emulators. So this what guarantees a 1080p signal to the screen. So these are also included, so don't forget they're just wrapped up in here. This is the box for the UCPR, and that's the device there, and I'll go through that in a second. But also up here we have lots of accessories. So we have a US power supply, but remember we've got some extras. We have some screws, so they can be attached to the table, etc., or mounted. And then we have a choice of cables. So we have our USB, and we have HDMI, so we can have connectivity. We also have USB-C, and I'll talk through all the options shortly. And then we also have the power supply for the UCPR, and I'll explain why we have that as well when we go through the UCPR features. So don't forget to take all the other accessories out of the box here. So here we have the 10-inch TS1070 panel. So this is be connected directly via Ethernet, or it can be using direct connect, and we just have the little plate that we mounted there to keep it nice and tidy, or again that can go straight down into a table. So over here we have the UC engine plate. So this consists of 1080p emulators that I mentioned we include in the box. We have the small form factor compute. This is the Microsoft Teams version. And then we have obviously a power supply, which we have a cable for to power that up. We have a USB Ethernet dongle. And this is if you want to directly connect the touch panel to the compute, or via the PR if we go that route, and I'll show you that when we set it all up. And then we have the new HDCon V USB 260. So what is slightly different to the previous versions is that we also have a second USB port. So first up we'll have a USB 3 for your camera, and then you can have USB 2 for your audio, so for your DSP for example, if you're using a custom installation. And then we also have a power. So we have the power socket here that comes up international adapters, so you just connect the right one there. So that's really straightforward to set this up. We power it on for the PC, and we power on the computer. I'm going to run through that in a second when it's all up and running. And then on the side here we have our ports for display. So we've got HDMI, and we have DisplayPort, and we have our USB ports for connectivity to cameras and peripherals, and obviously we have the LAN port, so the Microsoft Teams room sits on the network. Next up we have the UCPR. So this is a new device that's included in all the advanced Crestron Flex kits, and this consists of a number of different ports. And this is essentially a mid-span. What that means is that it will just pass through any power or data connectivity. So we can plug the touch panel directly into the front here, and then we have a USB-A just there, and that can be if you're using the Mercury Mini, so the MM30, for example, an MM30X, and I'll show you that setup as well. And then we have USB-B and HDMI in, which is used for bring your own device, and then also in the middle we have USB-C, and this allows you to do your presentation and your audio all over that single cable. And in addition, it will give you power to your laptop. And that's the reason why we plug this in. This takes the power supply we provide. Again, you mount that under the desk. Then that also gives you laptop charge. This device does not get a LAN address, so it's not a device with a MAC address. It's just a midspan, so it's passing through that power if you're pushing PoE through that LAN port to come out the front. And then we have two RX. So then that connects to the RX in port at the top of there. And that's one of the blue cables that we provide for that. So that's the UCPR, so as you can see there's no MAC address on the labeling, so it's not a network attached device. When you use XIO Cloud, Microsoft Teams Room or Zoom Room, that will see all the data on there. So here we have my UC engine all cabled up now, so I've given it network, so it's sitting on my Ethernet switch. I plugged into HDMI, I've just got a keyboard connected for our setup. Now this adapter, because I'm going to connect the device to the network, I must take this out, because that way I will be able to get a network address for my touch panel and I'll be able to view that in XIO. If you want to directly connect that, then you leave that in and it connects through an offline address. I then have the RX going up to my UCPR up the top, and then as part of the connectivity to the HD Conv USB 260, I have plugged in my camera here, and this is a Logitech meetup, so again with our XIO Cloud integration I'll be able to see and control this setting from here. So all that remains now is to provide power to the UC engine. So before we power up the UC engine, I'll just show you the connectivity I've done here on the UCPR. So I have connected it to my network switch on the LAN. I've plugged in the power supply, and as you can see the blue cable I've got going back to the HDCon 260. Then if I come down to the front here, I have connected my touch panel, so using that grey cable we provide. That is then connected up to the TS1070. As you can see here, it's all ready, and let's just remove that. So as you can see, it's trying to connect to the offline address, but it also has a network address, so it's sitting on the network. Remember, I would leave the adapter in, and I would then connect this LAN port to that USB Ethernet adapter on the UC engine. I wouldn't put it on my network. So if you want to do direct connect and only have one network in the room, i.e. that's the compute talking to the Microsoft Teams environment, you would connect this then directly to that USB adapter. But in my choice here, I've done it through the network so I can see it in XIO Cloud. So that means you don't need to configure anything on here. That will automatically connect to the UC engine when it's on. I will do some manual pairing, and once I get an IP address for that. This accessory port over here, this is not used, and as I mentioned, we will use that if we had a Mercury Mini, and I'll do that in another video. And then I have connected up my 3 cables for this bring your own device environment. So these two are used as a pair, HDMI and USB. So I have USB-A and I have my HDMI, and then in the middle I have my USB-C connectivity. And what I'll do on these, I'll show you how they route and how they take priority. But if you have USB and HDMI and then someone plugs in USB-C, then that will take priority and use that as the display. But we'll run through that in a live demo. Let's now turn on the UC engine and we'll get this all powered up. For the out-of-box setup, we have a few options to do. So remember I said I connected my mouse and keyboard. Again, if you have that, that's an option to obviously choose your right language. But again, I also have a touchscreen which is compatible, so I can use the touchscreen here to select my options. One of the key things that I actually carry around with me just in case is a fold-up keyboard and mouse. So again, you'll be able to utilize that wherever you go. If you ever go somewhere and you need a keyboard, it's always great to have a physical keyboard as well, and it folds up and just the size of a notepad really. We'll just skip a few of these options, we don't need to do anything on there. Now the system has rebooted a few times, we're at our screen. Now our touch panel doesn't know what to connect to because it doesn't have the IP address of the UC engine. Now to get that, we log into the touch panel first through a web browser, but we need to now understand the IP address of that UC engine, or DNS name. Now if DNS is set up and it's been correctly named, obviously you can do that. But how do we get into the system first? So there is a keystroke command, Control, Shift, Alt and D. And what will happen now is that the screen, as you can see, will change and duplicate the display. And this will allow me to then get to the Windows desktop and understand what IP address this is. Again, you could get this from the network administrator once it's been plugged into the network. So we can just simply click exit on here and then log into the Windows desktop. And this is very simply basic Windows commands. We'll go Windows System and Command Prompt. All we need to do to understand the IP address is type in ipconfig. And then that will show me the IP address of our Ethernet adapter. Remember, we must not use wireless networking for this. So we can highlight that with a mouse and press enter to copy that. And then all we need to do is on the touch panel is open up a browser to the IP address. Remember that is set in the bottom corner. So in the bottom right hand corner we type in the IP address of our touch panel. So now I've typed in that IP address that's in the bottom right hand corner of the touch panel. Because this is the first time I'm utilizing the TS1070, I have to create a new username and password. So we shall do that right now. So once you've created a secure password, you'll be asked to log in. It must be secure. It can't just be plain A to Z. There are some limitations there. So again, if you're doing that direct connect method, so from the UCPR directly to the USB Ethernet adapter on the device, you don't need to do this. So you'll be able to jump this section, and I just go down to settings and I go to my applications. We can expand that. And we can see we've got Teams video. So this is where we paste in the IP address of the UC engine, and the port is default, and our username. These are the defaults, admin and SFB. And we save changes. So now once we've done that, once we've saved changes, that will now wake up the touch panel. And as you can see, it's now connected and it's installing some updates. So nice and easy to do that connectivity. So we can now close out of the browser and we can sign out of the device or restart. So we'll restart it in a minute once it's finished doing that update on the touch panel. Now that the touch panel has finished updating, and that's gone through a reboot cycle, let's have a look while we're still here in the Windows desktop at the Crestron app, and I'll just show you some features. You can see that the system is all connected. The HDCon USB-200 is connected. It's got its firmware version. We have a camera connected, and we can see it's a Logitech Meetup, and we have the UCPR all connected up. We can also see now we have our remote display, and again you can simply open the admin page, so that will actually jump to the IP address of that device, which we don't need to go into because we've already set all that up. So again, for future reference, it's easy to navigate through the Crestron app to that connected device, so whether that is directly connected or it's through the LAN. And just down here we just have the packages that are included in here, and then we can have our USB camera, so we can see that the camera is all well and connected. And then content input, I have nothing plugged in. We have our smart graphics, so if you want to upload a project such as something to do like pan-tilt zoom, or you want to add in air media, or even in a custom room you want to do that room control, that's where you load this in. Or again, you load that through XIO Cloud. Our IP table is if you want to connect to that Crestron processor, or if you have an Air Media connector for wireless content sharing. And diagnostics, we can look at any features, any issues there. And under advanced, we have this one here that I want to turn on, and that's Logitech Sync. So that means it will now talk to the camera and then bring all that data into XIO Cloud for us. So we just click done in the bottom right hand corner and we're finished with there. And let's just reboot this device now, and what we will do is put in some Teams credentials and log in for the first time. Now that the system is rebooted, I now see the center of room console where I'm able to now input my Microsoft Teams credentials. So I can either use the keypad there to type it in, or I'm able to type it in from here. So as I've got my keyboard attached, I'm able to do this. So I've typed in my username, my password, and I want this to be Microsoft Teams as default, and I want modern authentication. I don't need any domain information because this is a pure Microsoft 365 cloud account, and I click finish. Again, this is going to now reboot and sign in with these details. So as it starts to come back up, you get the Microsoft Teams loading logo on the front of room display. and also on the center of room display. So I refer to this as the center of room console, so COR, and then the main display is usually I refer to as FOR, front of room display. So if you ever see that in my blog posts or talking about it, that's what we have there. So now it's going to sign into Teams, and there we go. Signed in. What we need to do is maybe send this an invite so we can do a new call, but first let's just run through some settings. So we'll just make sure everything is set up correctly. So we can see it's on a slightly older version, 4.6.23, as of the 15th of February 2021. The latest release is 4.7.19, and that has some bug fixes and etc. in there, so this will eventually update after either a number of reboots or even an overnight update. There are ways to force an update, but I'm not going to do that today. Again, it's good to let the system do its auto updates, etc., and let it take everything in its own stride. So meetings, we can see, do we want to enable Zoom and Webex interrupt? So that would be nice to have, so we'll add that in. Device, if we've got two screens, we can turn that on or off. I've only got the one screen connected at the moment, and we've got our Bluetooth beacon, and that's for proximity join. Coordinated meetings, if you have something like a Surface Hub paired up, and we can just make sure we've got our camera, microphone all set up, and we can see our default speaker is incorrect, so we'll just set that one. There we go. And content camera, this is where if you have a third-party camera, to do that magic whiteboard or whiteboard where it'll pick it up and it'll ghost you out. So never set your camera in there unless you have a certified content camera set up. And then you can select a theme if you want different colors, or you can upload a different theme, etc. So now we've got that set correctly, we'll hit save. So again, because we've made some changes, it's just going to do that reboot for us. So here we have the device now invited to a meeting, and I simply tap join. So that now joined the Teams meeting, and as you can see up here, it's all ready to go. So that's the system, and I have my laptop here, and let's take the USB-C. So I've got a modern laptop, it only has USB-C ports, so I simply connect this in. Now this will then show up my content on here, so it instantly shares it away, and I can use the touch panel to disable sharing content into the meeting, so that now stops sending, but it still presents locally. What you also have here on the Teams room on a single display is the gallery view, so I can choose what layout I want. So I can see video in the bottom corner, but I can also see my content. So very simple, that's how I do a meeting. So now let's terminate this call. And what we can do now is do a bring your own device call. Because the device is still connected, it's asked me, do I want to present by default, or do I want to do BYOD? So I simply select BYOD. It now initializes the speakers, microphone and display over to my laptop. So now I cannot join the room accidentally. So over here on my laptop, I can then open the Zoom client, for example, and I can do new meeting. And as soon as I click this new meeting now, you can see it's already got the Logitech meetup as part of my Microsoft Teams room. And it's also utilizing the meetup for audio. So again, I've had no drivers to install, very simply walk in the room, plug in my device. Now, what happens if you don't obviously have USB-C, and you may have something like a dongle, so where you've got your HDMI, you've got your USB, and this will convert it. So now I have my dongle replicator connected. We will plug in HDMI and the USB to this device. So first up, I've got my HDMI connected, and as you can see, that shares your display straight away. And on your Microsoft Teams room, you can obviously stop that presenting. So that's normal behavior. Now when we connect the USB-A, because that's what you've got maybe available on your laptop, you simply select the USB-A and we connect that to the dongle. And now this performs exactly the same as USB-C. It brings the peripherals over to the device. This means I can then do my call using the full features of Zoom or maybe Hangouts, GoToMeeting, GoToWebinar, etc. Any other meeting platform I can do with this bring your own device. So what happens if we have just HDMI connected to my laptop over here? And as you can see, it's showing my laptop. But if someone else comes into the room and decides, hey, they want to present. So again, they take the USB-C and they plug that into their laptop. Now watch what happens. the device will switch from the HDMI input source to my laptop by default, because USB-C takes priority over anything else. And as you can see on the touch panel, you have the option: do you want to do default, which is presentation, or you can actually then switch to BYOD as well. So I've got that option. If I don't touch it, it will just default to display only. You have to select the BYOD option. So there we have my laptop now ready for BYOD on my different device I have now. Super simple for anyone to walk in a room, plug in and do that bring your own meeting.